Selamat malam, selamat sore, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Selamat datang di acara Expert Dialogue and Sharing Series keempat yang diselenggarakan oleh Unimatrix. Kami sudah menyelenggarakan ini beberapa kali dengan tema studi di Inggris, Belanda, dan atau hybrid, dan juga dari program S1, dan kali ini kita sudah menginjak pada program S3. Sebelum kita memulai acara, seperti biasa kami memiliki tradisi membukanya dengan tampilan musik harpa oleh Ibu atau Mbak Fahita yang sudah siap dengan instrumennya. Terima kasih kepada Mbak Fahita yang selama ini setia untuk melantunkan lagu-lagu yang sangat menyemangati kita untuk ikut acara ini, dan pertunjukan harpanya itu luar biasa. Kita jadi ingin membuat konser khusus untuk Mbak Fahita ya, kita bikin konser musik. Barangkali ada teman-teman lain yang ingin kita akan membuat publikum konser di mana para peserta kita juga bisa menjadi audiens yang baik. Untuk menyingkat waktu, saya persilahkan kepada Mbak Fahita untuk melantunkan lagu kebangsaan Indonesia, yaitu Indonesia Raya. Mungkin mood-nya mood saya. Terima kasih Mbak Fahita. Wah, luar biasa sekali. Oke, untuk berikutnya saya ingin memperkenalkan Ibu Desi Irawati, Ibu Desi Rutan, maaf namanya, Ibu Desi Irawati Rutan atau Ibu Desi Rutan. Bagi yang belum mengenal atau mungkin lupa, Ibu Desi ini adalah salah satu ilmuwan wanita Indonesia yang prestasinya itu luar biasa. Beliau mengikuti pendidikan di Inggris dan merupakan salah satu dari International Female Research Fellow of one of the UK-based leading research and policy associations. Jadi mendapatkan gelar PhD VERSA, Regional Studies Associations, dari tahun 2011 sampai sekarang. Dan beliau juga memiliki prestasi yang sangat luar biasa dalam bidang bisnis. Beliau adalah lama menangani BNI di Schengen, di Nederland dan Schengen sebagai Business Strategy for Smart Remittance Europe, dan juga sebagai businesswoman ya istilahnya, memiliki banyak sekali prestasi dalam bidang bisnis, dan bahkan juga baru-baru ini terus belajar untuk mendapatkan international ilmu dalam bidang international business management and banking and finance sector. Nah, Saya sangat senang sekali Ibu Desi bergabung sebagai managing partner dari Unimatrix untuk Kerajaan Belanda dan Inggris. Jadi Ibu Desi menginisiasi untuk membuat acara Expert Dialogues dan Sharing Series ini untuk memberikan kesempatan kepada siswa-siswa atau pelajar dari Indonesia yang ingin belajar ke Eropa, tetapi tidak klop dengan pelajaran atau cara belajar di Jerman yang kaku gitu. Saya terus terang, Unimatrix itu sebenarnya adalah perusahaan Jerman, kita base di Berlin dan spesialis kita adalah sebenarnya Germany, tetapi di Germany itu susahnya setengah mati, jadi terutama bahasanya, dan ini sangat menjadi kendala karena orang Jerman ini kaku ya gitu. Jadi alangkah baiknya kalau untuk menuntut ilmu itu jangan sampai bahasa menjadi kendala, ilmunya itu bisa dicari di negara lain, misalnya yang Inggris atau Belanda yang memang kualitasnya juga bagus dan dengan bahasa yang dengan standar bahasa yang mungkin bisa dipelajari di Indonesia, bahasa Inggris dengan tesnya tes IELTS itu atau tes di TOEFL bisa lebih mudah didapatkan dari tes di Goethe Institut bahasa Jerman yang sampai sekarang masih tutup. That's for example ya. Nah, untuk menyingkat waktu, saya persilakan kepada Ibu Desi. Hari ini kita memiliki pembicara. Di sini saya mau tampilkan pembicaranya di screen. Saya coba untuk screen. Bentar. Ya, kita di sini memiliki pembicara Mas atau Pak Ari Wibowo yang saat ini ada di Malaysia ya Mas ya, di Air Asia Berhad Malaysia, dan ya maaf Pak Ari Wibowo PhD, jadi saya lupa menyebutkan gelarnya. Kemudian kita juga mempunyai pembicara yaitu Ibu Nada Ristia Rahmani yang merupakan PhD students di Universitas Medis Centrum Utrecht jadi beliau adalah peneliti di di Universitas Hospital atau Central Hospital di Belanda, di Utrecht, Belanda. Silakan Ibu Desi, the floor is yours. You can do it in English, of course, but because today we are not talking about study in English, but in Netherlands, but also maybe both of them. But so please feel free to speak in bahasa Indonesia or in the Netherlands or whatever. Okay, thank you. Terima kasih, silakan.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang waktu Belanda untuk Mbak Nada atau Ibu Nada. Kemudian selamat malam untuk Bung Ari Wibowo yang ada di Malaysia, di Kuala Lumpur. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. I hope you don't mind if I switch into English because it will encourage our audience to learn and to be motivated to pursue higher score of IELTS in order to meet all of you, or at least to be like one of you. And first, I would like to start with Bung Ari Wibowo. We have met, a long time ago when you studied your master back in Newcastle. You were the alumni of not Newcastle, Northumbria University at that time, but you already did something about aviation industry. And I would like to hear your story from your undergrad, and then you continue your master postgraduate in the UK, and then you decided to continue your PhD, although you took some years to decide that. Could you please tell us the journey of your study, Bung Arbo? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Desi. It's been a while. I think the last time I saw you when we were in Oxford, I think, isn't it? It's like 2014, isn't it? So yeah, it was a long time ago. So yeah, I would like to say my thank you, and then say hi to everyone So it is it is a great pleasure for me to share what did I do and then what did I experience since I think I did my master's like 10 years ago. So I started my undergraduate in ITB, majoring in electrical engineering, sub-majoring in telecommunications, and then I did that until from 2003 and 2008, and then I continue with this. Sorry. Sorry. Yes, sorry about that. Sorry, and then I continued as I became a researcher after that. So after I'm doing my thesis, my scriptsy. So my final project in ITB, I was a researcher in this. My lecture is kind of like establish a company, having a project in this kind of like YMX chips or something like that. I really forgot about that. So it's kind of like so I did a simulation there, and after that I just realized that there's a gap. There's a gap between how the researcher's perspective and how the managerial or the board of management has kind of like different perspective as well. I mean, like kind of like 180 degrees, if I could say. So it comes to my mind that I need to fill the gap. I need to do something because the language of the researcher sometimes is not similar with the language of the board of directors, for example, like that. So based on that, I just want to continue my study as simple as it's just the easiest way to understand is to learn from someone. So at the first, my dream was going to Germany, Mas Joni. So I took a course in Goethe Institute in Bandung. I still remember for 2 years. Unfortunately, yes, as you mentioned before, it was very difficult. So I didn't get any chance to go to Deutschland that time, and then I went to on the summer 2008, if I'm not mistaken, or 2009 or 2008. Yes, I went to Jakarta. There's education fairs in GCC, and then I found a few universities that I have interest. As I mentioned before, I had the kind of like interest in how to filling the gap between the researchers in the operational side and the managerial side. So I took the engineering management course. So there are a few universities that offering me the courses. So one of them is the Northumbria at Newcastle. So long story short, I tried to register to Northumbria at that time because I was already late about to go to the other universities because, and one of the reason is because they have opened a registration for January intake. I mean, like in the middle of the academic year at that time. So yeah, I took the LTS. So I took kind of like private course and learned by myself. 1 month straight away from 9 to 5 every day, Saturday and Sunday as well. So I just took. At first, my LTS was so bad, even I feel ashamed of myself. How did I do that? And then finally, I get educate for the requirements. Alhamdulillah, and then went to UK 2009 January. So it was a very fruitful experience for me, and then that's where I met Mbak Desi as well. So I was the president of the Indonesian Student Association that time. So we had kind of like courses, kind of like short courses how to write your dissertations. So because as an undergraduate from Indonesia and then embarking a new education system which is in UK or Europe is totally different. So yes, I'm very grateful that I met Mbak Desi This is very helpful. Thank you, Ma. And then after that, I feels that, yeah, Ma. Sorry.
After you graduate, then you went back to Indonesia.
Yeah, so before I went back to Indonesia, so my supervisors, my master supervisors like offer me a scholarship or PhD. However, it was only 50% of the tuition fee. So I tried, but I think I couldn't afford it. Because it's too difficult for me at that time. I couldn't do that yet, because the tuition fees and then the living expenses as well. So that's what I got back as well. I went back to Indonesia. So even my parents said to me, "You have to go back home first. At least we have to marry first." Okay, makes sense. And then after that, I joined the GMF, Garuda Maintenance Facility. Garuda Maintenance Facility is a subsidiary of the technical engineering support for Garuda. So it's kind of like if you see a workshop, or maybe if you say in Indonesia, it's like bengkel, but it's for aircraft. So yeah, I got the chance to learn and to work there as a account manager at that time. As an account manager, and then for almost 2 years, I did from scratch. I went to the shop floor wearing the wear pack as a mechanic. I did that for 3 till 6 months, study about aircraft and everything. And it comes to me, there's a problem. What's the problem is how to connect the marketing side and the operational side. As I mentioned just now, it's totally different side. It's totally different world. When in the operation floor, they want to have a perfect golden plated surface and everything, but in the other side, the marketing side want to become just sell it, just do it, whatever it takes, just do it. So it crossed my mind. I think there's a gap as well in here. I mean, like, wow, there's something that I could do, I think. And then I just crossed my mind that, oh yeah, I think if I could do research about this, I think I could deliver something for my company at that time. And I asked Garuda for scholarship because I found interest to embark my PhD that time. I found a supervisor. I think everyone knew about him. His name is Pak Benny. Pak Benny was the first speaker in Unimatrix, right? So I met him. I emailed him. I did send an email, and then he accepted my proposal. Alhamdulillah. Wow. So it's kind of like, okay, that's the thing. What's next? Thinking about the expenses. So that's the foundations of everything. I tried to propose my proposal to my company. Unfortunately, they were not doing that good at the time, so they couldn't provide me with scholarships. And I don't know, it's kind of like God's will, I think. Alhamdulillah, there's a LPDP opening. LPDP open on February. So I received approval from Pak Benny on end of January, and I saw that LPDP opened a scholarship for PhD in February. And the best thing of LPDP, they didn't really. You have to be a lecturer, for example, if you want to have PhD. So I come from industry; it's totally different, and then they welcome me to apply. So yeah, that's the story. That's a long story short. I got the LPDP. Went to Cranfield. I think Cranfield is one of the best aviation's best background in the world. And one of the reasons I choose Cranfield as well, because my former boss in Garuda, they studied in Cranfield, so it will be easier for me to have their permission as well. So that's what my intention was. So yeah, and then up and down in the PhD, but I enjoyed. I'm grateful that I took this PhD, and I got this PhD, Alhamdulillah, 2017, and went back home. Still working on Garuda until I have an opportunity to do it in the airline side, because I just remember that whenever you feel like you know about everything, but when I learn about this aviation industry, a lot of things that I need to learn basically. So from MRO side, from the Bengkel side, I would like to become the operational side. So there's an opportunity to go to AirAsia Indonesia. So in Indonesia, AirAsia, I was appointed as the strategic development manager that time. So relating how my operational background I did with this PhDs and research, it helped me a lot to kind of like to provide the decision makers good data with the good analysis, and that's why 1 year in there, and then I had a chance to broaden my experience to go to headquarters in Kuala Lumpur right now, and mostly about the data analysis and how to transform the digital side from the operational side to strategical directions. So yeah, I hope it's not too long. So that's what I could talk to you. Please feel free if there's any comment on anything that you need to know. So I'm happy.
I still have some questions for you. Right, Bung Arbo, you just
Yes.
basically explain your journey in terms of finding your chances in scholarship, from any kind of UK universities. You failed to go to Germany, but there's always blessing in disguise. Instead, you went to the UK, and that opened up another chances for you to have and to pursue your recent career now. I just want to ask you, you start off your postgrad from Northumbria, and then
Yes.
you move to other university, and I believe each of those universities, they have this slightly different kind of learning style, because you learn from different kind of people, although they might be British, but different learning style. And you have met Pak Benny, which is our Indonesian scholar, which I'm very grateful to have him with Unimatrix for other aims. So did you find any difficulties to settle down for your PhD? And can you elaborate, how was your PhD learning process? Definitely different compared to the master program. It is more intense, and I believe in the UK system now they have what they call as a doctoral, courses. So within the first year they have to attend the research courses or trainings, and then if you can pass the annual year, then you continue for the second, and so on and so forth. So how did you prepare yourself for this PhD journey, which later I'm going to ask Mbak Nadia, because she's still in this journey?
Yes, Mbak Desi, I think it was a great experience to embark the PhD, because I think one of the biggest challenge that I faced was the mindset. So coming from the industrial mindset, which is kind of like solution-based answers. So whatever you have problems, okay, this is the answers. This is kind of like industrial thinking that I learned. But in the PhD, it's totally different. You could be wrong, you could be right. It depends on how you get it, how you obtain the answer, how you support the answer with the method, the right method, and why you choose the method, and why you choose this scope. I mean, like the scope of the questions itself. So at the first year, it's kind of like a little bit difficult for me. Luckily, there's as you mentioned just now, there's a lot of classes, doctoral classes on how you have a systematic thinking, how to do research, for example, how to write in English. I had a problem with writing in English as well, especially the formal English is totally different. And there's a lot of supportive friends as well. So because we were in the same lab, and then there's a lot of people from different countries as well, with total about 8 or 10 with different cultures as well. But we had the same goal, right? We would like to finish this PhD, and then we shared about what we have, and then we shared about what the challenges are. And then I think that's the most influence things that that makes me have more confidence that time. And I asked help from Mbak Desi as well that time. I still remember the first review of my first year. I don't know whether it's good or no, is it true or no, but I think that's the difference between Indonesia and in UK education system, right? In UK, they support you rather than they judge you, or rather than they throw you down way. Sorry if I mistake. They support you. They find a solution for you. We discuss. So I still remember my supervisor told me, at now you are my students and I'm my supervisors. And in the end, we become equal. We become a colleague. So I think that's that words, that sentence encouraged me to do more and more, and then keep moving forward. Whatever it takes, I just take it. I don't really care about if I'm failing or not that time, but I just have confidence. Okay, if I just do it, just do it. Whatever the result is, I think only God knows, right? Yeah.
Right. And luckily, you landed on a PhD studentship from LPDP. And we know every year their how do you call that? Their regulations and terms and condition is always changing. And at the time, was it difficult to get the offer from LPDP, Bung Ari?
So the one challenge that I faced was my university Cranfield has not been listed as destinations of the universities from LPDP. All right. So I found a way. So I was very fortunate that I have friends that's very supportive. So he mentioned to me, okay, maybe you could have kind of like documentations or proof that this university is good for you. It's good for our countries, to support from the industry, for example, because Cranfield is very particular university they don't have any undergraduates, only masters and PhDs. That's why they didn't have any listed in Times Higher Education. So what did I do is I contacted the ambassador, not the ambassador, so the attaché of education, Pak Fauzi.
Yes.
Because if you remember, but I asked him to send me kind of like documentation of support that Cranfield is one of the best university for the aviations that I choose. And I get this letter, alhamdulillah, and then I sent it to LPDP, and LPDP granted my scholarship. So basically, there's a way. There's always a way. And then LPDP was very open as well, and then so just like that, I think.
I think you are very smart to find out how can you do the extra miles. You have this obstacle, but you have a faith, and you believe that there's a will, there's a way, and then you are very creative in finding out. Why don't we contact our education attaché in London, because that is one of his responsibility to support or to give any documentations if it is necessary. You know what I mean? So that was very smart move, Bung Arbo. Brilliant.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I think alhamdulillah, it's God wills at time. I didn't really thought about that one.
Yeah, that's good. Right, I will come back to you after I have a talk with the second speaker. I'm moving on to Mbak Nada. Mbak Nada, please unmute yourself. I can see that. Yes. Ibu Dr. Nada, apa kabar? Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Goedemiddag.
Goedemiddag.
Spreek u een klein beetje Nederlands? Klein beetje? Beetje. Maakt niet uit hoor. Stap voor stap, allemaal gaat goed. Niet alleen voor eten, nasi rames, bami, en zo on en so forth. Maar Nada, gefeliciteerd. U bent nu de PhD-student van Universitair Medisch Centrum Utrecht. Gefeliciteerd, hè? And I'm very pleased to have you because your journey is so inspiring. You start off your medical degree from university in Indonesia, and then I remember I met you for being a master's student at that time in bioscience or something. You can tell me later. But now I see you as a PhD student at one of the best medical university in the Netherlands. So Mbak Nada, could you please tell us your story, starting from your medical journey, and then you apply for a scholarship for master degree in the Netherlands, and then you continued for different scholarship sources for your PhD. Mbak Nada, time is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Mbak Desi, and hello everyone. Good evening for those in Indonesia. I think it's afternoon for me here. So a little bit about my experience on going to different schools and also trying on applying for different applications. And I hope some of my experience can help you guys as well who are trying now to either do master's or PhD. So I did my bachelor's in medicine, Universitas Pajajaran in Bandung. And I had a very, I really like English somehow. I really like studying in English, conversing in English, and I really like international environment with people from different countries. So I knew from during my bachelor's that I knew that one time I really wanted to do something abroad, but it's not as a tourist, because as a tourist you don't really have any collaborations and those kind of things. And I was really, really interested to know how working together with people from different countries will look like. So that was a very interesting thing for me, and how I am from Indonesia could contribute in this kind of work. Studying together or working together, that was also something that I wanted to experience. So at the back of my mind during my bachelor's, I always know I wanted to study abroad. And then the opportunity came when my husband, he got accepted to study in TU Delft. TU Delft is like ITB, but it's in the Netherlands. So he got accepted to study his master's in TU Delft. In the same time, because I was a medical doctor, I had to serve in a rural area, and it was an obligation at that time. So in the same month that my husband went to leave to the Netherlands, I went to leave to Pelabuhan Ratu to work there. So he was abroad, I was in a rural area, and we were figuring out how I can join him in Europe. So, and it's not very easy to just apply for a visa and come to Europe, because if you did, you might become a tourist, and therefore you only have 3 months, then you have to go back. I didn't want to be a tourist, so another option was to become a student. So that was the context. It was a situation I was in, and it was also my dream to study, so it was a perfect timing. And so I started my journey of how can I do my master's? When you do your medicine, every country has a different regulation. For example, in Japan, medical students are considered to graduate as equal as masters. So when they graduate medicine, they directly do a PhD. But in the Netherlands, medical students are not considered to have graduated masters, so you have to do a master's. So that was the situation at the moment. And then the next step was to choose what kind of masters. I didn't know that there's so many different type of masters. I didn't realize that the discipline of, just the disciplines are so different with Indonesia. In Indonesia, we have medicine, we have pharmacy, but here you have tissue engineering, biofabrication, all these different types of ilmunya, karena ini jadi bahasa Indonesia ya. Karena perkembangan ilmunya sangat cepat dan lintas ilmunya juga sangat banyak, masternya menjadi sangat variatif. So the first part of doing taking a master's was to decide which master program, and even that was a whole journey by itself, to figure out what exactly it is that we want to learn. I was fortunate enough to find a master's in Amsterdam, and it's called biomedical science, in which you can actually choose 2 different majors. So you could do education and cardiology. For example, cardiology is about the heart, or you could do public health and then cancer. So there's like very different fields, but you can do that. And so I chose that one, and I did public health to expand my social understanding. And I did immunology to go more into the molecular of medicine. So after I chose my master's, I did all the selection. Also the same with Mas Ari. It was in 2013, and LPDP just recently launched. So I also applied LPDP, and alhamdulillah, I got accepted. Now I'm just thinking whether we were in the same batch with, am I in the same batch with Mas Ari Wibowo? I was LPDP batch 2. So, but I was going for my master's. During the master's, we have to conduct internships. That's a part of the master's study. An internship is when we take a small part of a PhD student's plan, and then we have to conduct experiments on those. So we were part of a PhD project basically, and our supervisors were PhD students. And during my internship, I became to learn, I got quite some insight of how people became PhD. Because in the lab, you have people from different countries. I had a friend from Thailand, and then there was Italy, just some parts of Europe, and there was also a person from America, and they all become PhD with different routes. I didn't know. I always just thought you just need to find a country that gives you a scholarship, and then you could do a PhD. Apparently, it was not the case. There were so many different routes to become a PhD, and then I came to learn about these different routes, and I realized that, if I want to do a PhD, I don't have to just be dependent on LPDP. I could try other things as well. So in my case, I tried the Marie Curie grant.
Yes.
I don't know if it's popular in Indonesia or not, but Marie Curie is part of the European Commission. And the Marie Curie grant is a grant so they give big grants for a certain topic of research. So for example, they give a grant for 30 PhD students in tissue engineering. So you have, suddenly within a month, you have 30 vacancies for you to apply for example. And then sometimes they would give a grant in water management, etc., etc. And for this, you have to always continuously look at Marie Curie's website and the European Commission website, what their research grants are focusing into, and see whether their topic matches with our interest. And then the way to apply it is just like a job application. You open the website, you see the requirements, you fill in the necessary documents, which is usually a motivation letter, a recommendation letter, proof of English proficiency. That is about it. And then I got called into an interview The first interview, I didn't get accepted. So when we apply, we usually apply for there are several different vacancies. So we could have a first choice and a second choice. So I got interviewed for my first choice and I didn't get accepted for that. A month later, the person who interviewed me, he emailed me personally asking, do you want to apply for your second option? Because I am also the principal investigator for that project. And so I did. I applied again through the whole process and got my second interview. And then I'm doing my PhD in that second option.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So to find out this, the result of your Marie Curie's PhD studentships, how many months in total, Mbak Nada?
To get a reply.
Yes, the whole journey, like.
Oh, if you ask me the whole journey of finding a PhD, that was quite long.
That's quite long.
That was quite long. But for the Marie Curie specifically, from application until acceptance was about 3 months.
3 months. Oh, quite good. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when I received the email that I was accepted, I was asked to come to the Netherlands within 3 months as well. So it was very quick.
It was very quick. Yes, understood.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, you did your undergrad in Indonesia and then continuing for your master degree in the Netherlands. So at least you've got a bit of, let's say, the experience how to deal with the Dutch learning system at the university. And then you continued for the PhD. Did you still find it difficult, or do you still need to adapt until now, here and there?
Well, the biggest adaptation, of course, is moving from learning within the Indonesian education system and then suddenly being a part of the Netherlands education system with a very high standard. That was quite a shock in terms of learning. I remember the first research article that they gave me as an assignment. It took me 3 hours to read 3 paragraphs.
Right.
Because I didn't understand a word it was saying. There were so many technical terms, and then I realized I didn't learn this in a bachelor. They didn't teach us how to understand research article. They taught us to get just the conclusions from a certain research article, but never really understand what research is. And there's also a difference in expectation. So in Indonesia, during the bachelor, when we read research articles, we will present them in groups and explain what we read, basically. In the Netherlands, when you read a research article, they do not ask you whether you understand or not. They ask you what you would have done differently, what you would have done to make what they are doing better, or whether you agree with their results, or do you think they should have get a different results if they use a different method. And this was kind of a second level of questioning that I was not used to. It requires us to understand the basics, but also understand what's going on.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So critical reading and also critical analysis. It's not just memorizing the article itself.
Yes, that's true. They don't want you to summarize what you read. They want your opinion of all the conclusions of everything you've read. You need to synthesize the information. And this synthesizing of information was not something I was equipped in learning in bachelor.
But I believe now you are used to that, to get along with your PhD projects.
That's the whole point of a PhD, right?
So, Mbak Nada, in your Marie Curie, do you work on specific projects? As you mentioned that this, this type of research is very specific, focused, and they expect certain, results. And if so, do you work in the lab, work base, or would that be a mix between lab work and classroom?
Yeah. So if we do a PhD in the field of science, it's a bit different with social studies. Maybe in social studies, you can come to your professor and tell him or her, this is what I'm interested to research on. So you can come with your own topic. But in science, that is not the case because every university has their own strength in research. In terms of my university, I'm in the Department of Orthopedic, and their excellence is in spinal surgery and bone regeneration techniques. So they've already been doing a lot of experiments, and based on whatever they found before, they have a hypothesis. They have like these things they want to test, but to test this, they need to hire a PhD because it will require 4 years for a certain thing to work. So the PhD position is very specific in a certain project. That's the difference. So I didn't come with my own research topic, but I applied for the existing project. And it also depends on the background. Because I am a medical doctor, I am doing translational research, which means I get samples from patients. I work in the laboratory, but I also do experiments on animals. I hope no one here. Yeah, it was very different. I've never, I do surgeries on rabbits, and I do surgeries on sheep and goats. So that was very interesting because we need to do bone research. So that's why we need animal. Yeah.
And as a part of your PhD finalization, you need to produce, let's say, a piece of work, your masterpiece. Would that be in a journal, or would that be in kind of dissertation, which is the opposite of the UK? The UK is dissertation, we call it for a master, and for our PhD, we call it thesis. In the Netherlands, we call it for a PhD dissertation, and thesis for a master. So do you have to write up that things, Mbak Nada?
We have to publish 4 articles in so those 4 articles combined will be our dissertation, basically.
Right, okay.
So in 4 years, we have to publish 4 articles in respectable journals, and also complete kayak SKS, kalau di Indonesia namanya SKS, ada bobot SKS yang harus dipenuhi dalam 4 tahun. And we have the opportunity to apply for any class that we want, for any courses that we need for ourselves. So we determine our own learning curve. For example, I don't know statistics, so I applied for a statistic course, and that course will become ada bobot SKS-nya itu jadi terpenuhi. Or maybe we want to design a poster and I've never used Adobe Illustrator, for example, or design. So I take a course on that. So for the PhD, whatever it is that you need, the university provides a wide range of courses, and you could always apply, and it's free for a PhD. If you are not a PhD, one of these courses will cost you 1,000 euros, which is like 17 juta rupiah for one course. So that's what's very cool, I think, in the Netherlands.
Yes, so you're not just studying on your own core discipline, but you also learn other subjects and also the complementary subjects along your PhD, Manada. Manada, regarding the Marie Curie PhD studentship, would that be covering the whole of your tuition fee and the living cost, or is just a living cost? It's just a tuition fees?
So something very interesting, and I think a lot of you would really want this. In the Netherlands, a PhD is not a student. We are an employee. We are a staff, which means that we receive salary. The only difference is that my salary comes from Marie Curie. So the hospital will receive funding or money from outside, and they will pool this money, and then they will pay salary to their employee. Because I'm a Marie Curie awardee, the source of my salary is from Marie Curie, basically. So we are paid, everyone with the same, it doesn't matter which kind of grant you're coming from. I'm from Marie Curie. Some of my friends got a grant from something else, but we have the same salary, and because we are foreigners, so there's we don't have to pay tax, basically.
30% tax rulers, basically.
Yeah, so we don't have to pay tax, and that kind of makes our salary much higher. Indeed. Kalau dibandingkan LPDP berarti mungkin 2 kali living allowance LPDP ya.
Yeah.
At
But
least
the competition is also higher compared to LPDP because it is international.
It is yes. So it is an international. I also, when I applied for the Marie Curie, I asked why is it taking so long for them to reply, and they said, "Oh, we received thousands of applications." So that was the difficult part. Yeah.
You were standing out of the crowd. I would like to ask, what did you send in terms of your application to win over their judges?
Well, first, when I did my master's here in the Netherlands, I graduated cum laude. So I think that helped. So now it's okay. They know. So they have some applications. Yes. And it's always quite a risk when you accept someone from different countries. So Marie Curie has a regulation. In a Marie Curie grant, the person who applied cannot come from that country. So no Dutch people were allowed to apply for this vacancy. It has to be non-Dutch people. And for Dutch people to employ non-Dutch, they have what should I do? I did my master's in the Netherlands, so they know my university, and they know my grades, so they know in which standard I graduated in. So I think that helped. And then the second thing was because I was a medical doctor, and this particular project has some surgery involved. So it would be difficult to teach someone with no
backgrounds or
no background skills.
Yeah.
In case they're afraid of blood or something, and that would be very difficult. I think that helped in my case.
That makes sense. You tick all the boxes because you have all, let's say, the stepping stones of those disciplines, and also basically your master program was really helpful to convince them to continue your Dutch study education here in the Netherlands within this project, right?
Yeah.
Did you have any, let's say, oh, I wish I could have done that? Did you have any, not regret, but I wish I could have done better for these Marie Curie things, or even went back to your LPDB experience? If you want to rewind your journey, if you like, to be better.
I think I would have took more time in deciding my master program rather just than the funding of the masters. A lot of people want to do masters. I'm going to do masters, and they take 100% of their effort for the money. But then they didn't look very critically what the curriculum of your master program consists of. You could have a master's in a certain field, and every university has their strengths and weaknesses in this field. So you want to study cancer. Don't just say, I'm going to do cancer in Oxford because Oxford is very good university. It's not that. What is their curriculum? What are they offering? So I think that would be the best thing. I didn't understand this at the time, so I chose my master's just generally. I wanted to do immunology. So it's a study of immune system. And the place that I was studying is, they were quite good in immunology, basic immunology, and the ones that I needed for my PhD was more into stem cell immunology and those kind of things. And I didn't have that background in my master's, so yeah.
You still have to go to the medical centrum in Utrecht because you are attached to this hospital university.
Yes, I get my samples.
Would like to hear that.
Yeah, my supervisor is an orthopedic surgeon, so to get my patient samples, he invites me to the operation room, which is very cool.
Yeah,
very advanced operation room.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, do you have to visit monthly or once in a blue moon, or is there any periodic time that you have to to visit the hospital?
Well, the hospital building is next to us. Our meetings are in the hospital, so we go there weekly. But meeting patients really depends on whether or not there is a research question that needs to be solved and whether there's a patient sample we need.
Okay. And in order to deal with the patients that you know, communication is important. So do you use Dutch or do you use English?
I use English. When I first made my emails to the patient, I sent it to my supervisor first. I asked him, do you think I've written something very clear? And do you think this is sufficient information because you know more? And so he gave me feedback and he said, okay, a lot of people understand English as long as you use easy words. The Netherlands is really nice that you have easy words. I think in the UK, you have sophisticated languages, and here we just use very basic word with basic grammar. As long as everybody understand everybody else.
Oh yeah, nothing else.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, that's good. Okay. Right. Now I would like to have a panel between those two speakers. At least we have two speakers now. But first, is there any questions from the audience? Pak Joni, do we have a questions to our speakers?
Yes and no. Actually, I just want to tell a little bit story from my own experience. That I know that many of you, mostly from Indonesia, are scholarship hunters, right? So it is very important for country of people from Indonesia to get scholarship or funding. So based on my own experience, I didn't apply any funding when I came to Germany. So I just came here by own fundings. But then there was economic crisis in Indonesia, 1997, 1998 to year 2000, which was very, very, it was a disaster. So that so it puts me to find a PhD or funding or scholarships as well. So just to give you a kind of, so I try very hard to find scholarships or funding in Germany, which is really, really not easy. But at that time, there was no LPDP or whatever. So I'm already in Germany. How can I find a scholarship from, I'm as Indonesia at that time to find scholarship from the German university. So in the case like Marie Curie, of course, very interesting. At that time, I just to write a lot of proposals, and finally I got 2 scholarships on the same time. So it was not forbidden. So if I got a scholarship from the University of Freiburg, and I got a scholarship from the European Southern Observatory at that time. And the total amount was 4,000 Deutsche Mark, so 2,000 euros at that time, 25 years ago. Can you imagine it? Jadi dari Universitas Freiburg kita dikasih 1.600 DM. Dan dari European Software Observatory dulu 2.500 DM. But I'm not a person who just I got the scholarship and then I do nothing. So I still go working. I still work in the restaurant as saya sebagai koki masih tetap kerja. Nggak apa-apa dapat sedikit 610 DM semua ditambah. So at that time, when the financial crisis in Indonesia, I finished my master, I worked, and I got 2 scholarships at the same time. Can you imagine it? Jadi sebenarnya keinginan untuk meraih PhD itu harus lebih besar dari keinginan untuk mendapat scholarship. Ini yang saya ingin jelaskan ke audiens bahwa jangan mencari scholarship untuk mendapatkan PhD, tetapi kita harus berkomitmen untuk membuat proposal yang baik, saya ingin apa untuk mencapai gelar PhD, baru nanti dengan kerja atau outstanding research atau apa, baru kita bisa mengharapkan bahwa saya layak untuk mendapatkan scholarship. Ya, jadi ini seperti telur dan ayam. Jadi mana dulu yang kadang kalau Indonesia tuh sangat mengharapkan saya ingin apply LPDP, saya ingin ini. Tetapi sebenarnya kalau kita benar-benar mau PhD atau mau mendapatkan sesuatu ilmu, itu kita akan cari semua jenis scholarship yang tersedia dari seluruh dunia. Don't get only for the certain LPDP, but try from other university, from other country, from other fundings. Banyak sekali kesempatan itu dan itu harus dimanfaatkan sebaik-baiknya. So that's all from me. Maybe, of course, then you can put your own opinion on your case so that we can all learn from that. Silakan Bu Desi.
Okay, before I move back to our speakers, I just want to inform that we are in Unimatrix. We've got the information consultation, if you like. So if you really want to have the opportunity to study, particularly in, I like to call it as a golden triangle, European countries, Germany, Netherlands, and the UK, we can help you. Also in terms of, your English, soon, as Bapak Joni has mentioned on our chat talks, we're going to have the English courses. We call it masterclass in 4 different aspects of English. And also, before I go back to our speakers, I would like to add on some notes on the PhD in the UK. If you want to find out, or if you want to get a scholarships in the UK, at the time, most of my peers, they always go to www.jobs.ac.uk, and those are the we call it scholarship hunters. Always try to get the latest information. They always have a mailing list, and scholarship, let's say jobs.ac.uk is not the only one. You also have a Marie Curie. If you are female, they really encourage female in STEM. And also L'Oreal. L'Oreal also has a female scholarship, particularly in science, technology, engineering, and math. And also European Union, during my time, they have a project, what they call as Horizon 2020, and now they're changing the name. So always go to the European Union website, or specific university in the UK, they have what they call as a student bursary, which is sort of a discount. If you pay full time, then you will get a certain discount, 5 to 15% or so, but it helps. Every little helps, And also a PhD studentship. PhD studentship basically is mainly for the UK/EU citizens. But if you are non-UK or EU citizen, you can apply, but you need to pay the rest of the difference between the EU tuition fees and the non-EU tuition fees. So there are plenty of opportunities for the UK, or the other way around is to approach directly to the person or to the supervisor that you really want to work with, or to the university that you want to go into. Like, for example, the case of Mas Arbo. So he wants to get a good, decent PhD from his field, and he found the supervisor, and actually he speed up the process to get the letter of acceptance, and then he continued to find the funding. So there are a lot of ways. It's not linear way to get the scholarship itself. Back in the Netherlands, as Mbak Nada mentioned, finding PhD is not like finding a studentship, because you are regarded as a staff. So if you want to find a PhD in PhD in the Netherlands, there's a portal, and everybody knows this if you are in the Netherlands, www.academictransfer.nl. And that is one of the websites will give you a lot of job vacancies as a PhD researcher or a PhD staff. And then, as Mbak Nada said, you get your salary as a staff. But at the same time, you will get the responsibilities to teach at certain courses or to participate in, lab work or student assisting things, you know what I mean? So in a nutshell, there are plenty of websites that you can register as a mailing list, so you will get any updates every day, in fact. So don't give up for all the scholarship seekers or hunters, if you like. There's a will, there's a way, okay? And I would like to get back to our speakers, but I just want to mention one thing. For the next 2 weeks, of course, we're going to have another webinar or Zoom series, but we would like to focus on the Dutch education. So it's gonna be Let's Go Dutch, right? So you can understand how to study in the Netherlands. If we have any changes, we will inform you from our website or from our mailing list. But after that, there is a session where I will not invite any other speakers. So it's gonna be internal within Unimatrix. So you can ask me a lot of questions, how to study in the UK and how to study in the Netherlands. And perhaps for those who wants to go to Germany, Pak Johnny is the expert for this case, because we have already at least 4 or 5 series by that time, and I want to make it sort of wrapping up. We give you a lot of information, but we would like to hear from you what sort of difficulties or problems or obstacles that you are facing at the moment. All right, so Bung Arbo and Mbak Nada, please unmute yourself. Right, Bung Arbo, see you hear the difference of slightly different between the learning system in the UK and in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, the PhD is a part of staff member. So how did they treat you while you were doing your PhD? Because were you just focusing on your own project, or were you asked to do some, let's say, teaching courses to get some experience? How was it?
Mbak Nada first or me? Sorry, I didn't get it. Me first or Mbak Nada first?
Oh, Bung Arbo.
Okay. Sorry, yeah.
Yes.
The most interesting things that I talked to my supervisor, one of my supervisors is a Japanese professor. When I talk about him that my background and everything, I don't have any capability and knowledge in research, and what he said is, wow, he feels honored. He said, my job is how to make you become PhD. That's my job. So you are a challenge for me. So let's go. So that's thing giving me more encouraging experience in doing my PhDs. And after that, when I opened, and they opened as well, and then my supervisors gave me a chance to review papers, for example. So I submitted papers for a conference, and then they got papers that they need to review as they're one of the contributors, right? So they asked me to do review papers, and they sent me over summer school as well, and they're very supportive, and then they support me to take part, involved in the academia internationally, not only from UK. So I went to Italy, and then I met a lot of community which has a particular research topic, idea, background, and then so yeah, it helped me a lot. So yeah, I feel grateful for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you were given the chance to experience another part of your research skills, if you like. Mbak Nada, do you still need to teach, or you just doing your project for your PhD project?
Yeah, so a part of being an employee is you not doing your own project, so you multitask different projects. That was also quite new to me. I thought that as a PhD, you would focus on your own project, and that is not true. You have your own project that you do, but you're also working on other research grants and other projects. If they need you for something, they will ask if you want to contribute. And so we are multitasking different projects, but you have the responsibility to make sure your own project goes. So that's a bit of the difficulty. We do have teaching, but it's not much because the field that I am in, there's only a there are master students, no bachelor students. So some courses in a master.
Right.
And it starts from our second year of PhD. So now I'm in my first year, and currently I'm supervising high school students actually.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's quite fun to know how Dutch high school students work.
Yes, middelbare school, ja. Want dat is belangrijk, de transitie van middelbare school naar die universiteit is grote gap, zeg maar, hè?
Yeah.
Right. I want to ask the same question to two of you. You know, passing PhD itself is not an easy task. So every year you need to make a progress, and then the committee will decide whether you can continue your PhD for the second or third year, or you just have to, postpone it. Bung Arbo dan Mbak Nada, how was your annual year? What sort of things that you need to convince the community that you are qualified to continue for year 2 of your PhD program? But Nada first, the annual evaluation or annual review in the Netherlands, how is it?
Yeah, so we have the go, no go. For the first year, it's called the go, no go. So if it's no, then your contract is not prolonged. So you have to, that's it. You don't have a extended contract. So the first year is very important. And the way that the evaluation goes is 2 steps. So the first one is we do an evaluation in a small team, just the PhD and the supervisors. And then the next step is with external supervisors. So these are people who are not within your group, and the idea of the external supervisor is not only to judge whether we are performing well, but also whether we are adjusting well. So they will ask you, how is your relationship with your supervisor? How is the communication going? Do you feel that you are being supervised sufficiently or not? Because it's very mental health, these kind of things, making sure that you fit well, you're happy in your work, that's also important. So that's also part of the annual evaluation.
So you need to provide everything in writing, but also you need to present that overall.
In my case, there's no writing, but it's a presentation. Yeah.
Right, okay. Bung Arbo, how was yours?
Yeah, but I think it's almost similar with what Mbak Nada said just now. So we had at the first kind of like research proposal review,
yes,
which is 3 months. So it's kind of like test or challenge. What will you be doing in the next 4 years at the time? And then I think the most important thing is like the same. The first year is like go or no go. So this is to measure whether your research is doable, and then will it has contribution to the knowledge. So because I think one of the UK's educational systems of PhDs, the literature review that they kind of like foundations of doing the PhDs. So in the first year, what I did is reading a lot of journals and try to align what will my research objectives will be. So, and then they challenged me from the foundations of the literature review that all over the world. So yeah, and then after that, the second year, third year, I think it's mostly about the progress. And then if there's any problem, they just support you. And if there's anything that you could do, because they just help you to align whether you are in this corridor or no. So yeah.
And then you will have the, let's say, your defense. And that is very, very different. If you are following the British system, in comparison with the Dutch or continental system, and also even Australian system. I'm very surprised. I mean, Australia is one of the Commonwealth of the UK, but they have a different PhD defense. In the UK, I'm sure Bung Ari, you understand, you will be invited for the 5FOs once you submit your PhD dissertation, we call it, and then you will have examiner, internal and external. And in my case, your internal examiner, they can come, I mean, he can come, but he cannot say anything. So he was just being observer. And it's not public defense, it's very private. But in the Netherlands, at least you have 6 or 8 promotors, they call it. And basically it's gonna be public defense. And it's gonna be a crowning time, because that is the time when you will be very proud of showing your research or your, you know, your result to your family and friends. So, but Nada, look forward to the event. Please do invite me, okay? I would be happy to see you there. Right. So in that, in Australia, it was funny because one of my colleagues, they were thinking, here's a professor, he's off to Australia. Oh, okay, I'm going to have a good vacation time while doing my time as the PhD external examiner. In fact, there is no any visit. So basically everything is done and dusted by online. So the expectation was gone. So it's not just like in the UK. So bear in mind, each of the countries, they have their own learning system. They have, just like Nada said, if you want to find a master or PhD program, it's not just about the funding. The funding comes number 2 or number 3. In fact, you must focus on the academic program itself and try to focus which particular country, because sometimes, to be honest with you, this is, I want to be objective. Okay, we know all the best 10, you know, top 10 university. You mentioned other, you know, Ivy League or Russell groups in the UK, but it doesn't mean those universities might have your specification. Like the case of Bung Ari, you went to Cranfield because that university provides you with the discipline that you were looking for, engineering in aviation, you know what I mean. So for those who still want to find a further education in overseas, try to be specific. What do you want to do in terms of your discipline or your subject? And then try to find out in which country you will do that, because each of them, they have a different rule of the game. That is very serious and critical to be found out earlier. And then try to find the funding sources. Funding sources publicly, you can see from those websites, but be clever like Bung Ari, you try to approach this and that. You can, I mean, you can come from, not just from the front door, but also from the back door or up and down, you know, try to find a way. And that is my message for those who are still trying to find scholarships and findings. And we would be happy to discuss this in a different session where I'm going to give you a free time to ask Unimatrix, what can we help you regarding finding a further education in, I like to call it, Golden Triangle countries in Europe. I think I would like to ask a last sentence from our speakers. Is there any last word? I don't want to mention swan song because you're not going to die. I mean, swan song, but it's a last message that you can give and pass it on to our audience. Mbak Nada and Bung Arbo, silahkan. Mbak Nada?
Okay, Mbak.
Ladies first.
Oh, okay. So to find a PhD or a master's funding or the program, the most important thing is collecting information. So make sure you collected all the information that is necessary and you understand what is asked from you. Don't suddenly send a lot of different documents that is not required. So collect information, and if it's funding that you're after, make sure you have very clear, you've arranged all the deadlines, because funding is also an administrative process. So do not miss the deadlines, understand the requirements, and how to prepare for that requirements. This is specifically for funding, and there is a lot of funding out there. There is a lot, like Bu Desi bilang. It's more of whether or not we want to pursue it. To be honest, my process of looking for a PhD took me 3 years of different applications to different fundings, different topics, until I found the one that fits me very well.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Bung Arbo, silahkan.
I think it's a simple one for me. Just keep moving forward. I mean, like whenever you have a PhD's spirit, keep in your heart, keep in your mind, and be prepared, please, because the opportunities come straight away, suddenly, and then you will not expect that something good will come, inshallah. So yeah, and the keep moving forward things, it really happens to me because there's a lot of obstacles, there's a lot of challenges that I faced. One of the example is when I mentioned just now, the Cranfield University wasn't in the list of LPDP. So whatever you want, just go for it, and then you will have something that you're unexpected to you. So yeah, be faithful. Yeah.
Yeah. Ora et labora and the prayer, ya, doa. Kalau dari saya itu pribadi, doa dari orang tua, blessing dari orang tua, terutama ibunda kita. Ini ada pertanyaan terakhir dan saya kira jawabannya gampang nih. Mbak Nada, ada pertanyaan. Apakah proyek atau Bung Ari, apakah proyek atau riset yang dilakukan pada saat PhD sama dengan dokumen proposal riset yang diupload atau submit ketika apply? Adakah perubahan? Kemudian sehingga, kalau menurut saya sih pasti ada, tapi Anda berdua mohon dijawab ya. Atau ada pengalaman, misalnya all the concept atau research framework berasalnya mayoritas dari idea supervisor. Alright, so it's talking about, when you submit your application, of course you have an initial research proposal, and then you are accepted, and then you do your first year and second year, and so on and so forth. To me, to be honest, it's always changeable. As long as plot, you must keep the focus. What is the hypothetical research questions? Kalau saya itu selalu berubah dari saya. Saya pertamanya mau PhD untuk bidang cluster elektronik, tapi karena saya melihat data di Indonesia untuk cluster elektronik itu kurang banyak, dan juga dari elektronik itu nanti kalau kita melihat supply chain global international business-nya itu seperti sewing machine aja, nggak ada transfer of technology, makanya saya ganti ke otomotif, sehingga saya berubah dari elektronik ke otomotif. Dari otomotif pun berubah lagi, intinya kemana? Karena otomotif itu kan banyak, sehingga kalau dari saya fokus ke supply chain-nya. Nah, kalau dari Mbak Nada dan Bung Arbo, if you don't mind answering this last questions, please.
Ya, berubah ya. Jadi topik tetap sama, scope-nya tetap sama, tapi kalau experiment based research kita selalu bisa nemu negative results. Dalam kasus saya baru setelah, after the 1 year evaluation, the month after the 1 year evaluation, we decided to stop completely the research that I was doing because of continuous negative results with no clear steps. So I had to stop 1 year of work, and that did not become a publication. And you have to just to be ready to go what's next.
Yeah. Good. Bung Arbo?
Yeah. For the first question, yes, basically my research was a case study, which is very particular. So it's not really changing, but the scope is changed.
Yes.
So for example, like in aircraft, I just mentioned one example. I would like to do whole aircraft, the airframe, but we do have limitations in time, and we have to do limitations in data. That's why I just changed a little bit my scope into a smaller but more detailed, more deeper. So I did my thesis is about the engines only, not the whole aircraft. So yeah, a little bit tweaked, but the method is the same. The idea is still the same. So that's what my experience.
Yeah, So to answer the question from Bung Ade, to me, doing PhD is not rocket science. So basically, you have certain obstacles and constraints. Time, money, and also data access is they are your constraints. So that's why I try to be objective and be pragmatic at the same time, because otherwise you end up doing blue sky research and it will make your life difficult. So as long as you can justify and then you can defend that, perhaps you keep your ideas later for your professional work or for your postdoc or for other things. But for PhD, keep it simple. As long as you can justify, have a good communication with your supervisor is very, very crucial, and try to learn other research skills like Mbak Nada. She's been learning statistics, etc., etc. So that's the thing. Okay, right. Without any more questions, I would like to say thank you very much to two of our speakers. Very pleased to meet you again virtually, and I hand it over back to Pak Joni. And see you. Oh, right, Pak Joni, if I don't mind, the time might be changed, or we'll find out the time. But the next session, we are talking about Let's Go Dutch. So we gaan naar Nederlands, the studie in Netherlands. And the speakers, we have two speakers, and she is alumnus from Erasmus University, Mbak Kalista Arsyad. And the second one is Mas Kama Sukarno, and is alumnus from Leiden University. And for those who wants to know how we study in Nederland, hoe gaat het met jou? Alles goed? En poffertjes en lekker? Nederland is een hele goede plek voor jullie om te studeren. Karena di sini banyak makanan Indonesia, rijsttafel en andere toko-toko seperti heerlijk net als in Indonesia. So dankjewel voor mij en tot volgende keer. Misschien 8 en 18 ja Pak Joni, but otherwise in ieder geval we kunnen altijd jullie e-mailen. Dankjewel Pak Joni. Ja. Goedemiddag.
Ya, terima kasih. Mungkin sebelum acaranya kita akhiri, saya berterima kasih sekali lagi kepada Ibu Desi dan kepada para pembicara, Mas Ari dan Mbak Nada. Kita akan sebelum ditutup oleh Mbak Fahita dengan lantunan harpanya, saya persilahkan dulu dari Unimatrix Indonesia untuk mengocok door prize. Saya akan share screen apa yang akan dimenangkan. Kita ada buku dari Bapak Imade Andi Arsana dan juga ada dompet dompet cantik dari Berlin. Saya lihat di sini. Ya, jadi saya persilakan kepada Pak Hadi untuk mengocok seperti biasa. Semoga dari peserta kita ada yang menang ya. Dan terima kasih kepada sponsornya PT Unimatrix Indonesia, Ibu Sari Agustina yang hadir juga di sini. Terima kasih atas sponsor yang diberikan. Coba Pak Hadi silakan dikocok.
Ini untuk berapa orang ya Pak?
Untuk yang ada yang mendaftar?
Enggak, maksudnya berapa kali undi gitu?
Sekali aja, sekali.
Sekali, oke.
Iya.
Oke, baik.
Ayo kita siap.
Ya, kocok ya.
Iya.
Yep, I got it.
Oke.
Hanif Diastomo. Apakah ada
Hanif Diastomo? Ada nggak ya? Pak Hanif Diastomo ada? Hadir?
Sepertinya absen. Hangus.
Hangus.
Oke, berikut.
Arisan nih.
Arisan. Mbak Ibu atau Mbak Deswita ya?
Ada.
Oh.
Deswita Revika.
Oh, ada nih.
Ada.
Ada, ayo mana yang
Kelihatan,
videonya?
Kelihatan nggak?
Ya, agak gelap. Mbak Deswita, congratulations. Have felicity.
Oh iya iya, oke.
Yay.
Ini tapi nggak ada,
Oh,
nggak
ini
muncul
ada.
orangnya. Mbak
Ada
Desi.
orangnya malu-malu tapi
Ada ini nih.
klein beetje verlegen.
Oke, selamat.
Selamat, Mbak
kepada Mbak Deswita Revika untuk hadiahnya.
Nanti dihubungi ya Mbak ya.
Ya, oke. Baiklah, kalau gitu kita dengarkan sekarang musik penutup oleh Mbak Fahita. Silakan. Luar biasa sekali persembahan musiknya dari Mbak Fahita. Terima kasih banyak. Thank you very much for the very excellent music performance. Saya berterima kasih sekali lagi. I would like to thank you everyone for coming to this event. So thank you Bu Desi, Mbak Ari, Mas Ari dan Mbak Nada, and everyone who is joining this event. And I would like to say until next time again, and thank you also for PT Unimatrix Indonesia who host this event. Semoga kita bisa berjumpa lagi dalam keadaan sehat walafiat dan sampai bertemu pada kesempatan berikutnya. Terima kasih. Kalau masih ada pertanyaan, silakan kirim email kemari ke kami ke academy@unimatrix international. Terima kasih. Alright, so goodbye everyone. See you again.
Happy weekend. Happy weekend.
Happy weekend.